Hello YouTube, welcome back to another book review from me, your host, Logan Albright. This is probably going to be a little bit of a short one because I don't have a ton to say about this book, but I am contractually obligated to review every book that I read, and I read this one, so let's talk about it. It is We'll Save the Galaxy for Food by Yahtzee Croshaw, a satirical sci-fi adventure. Published by Dark Horse Comics, a little bit odd because it is not a comic at all, but rather a novel. I was given this book by a friend of mine who thought I would enjoy it, and I did rather enjoy it. It is basically an old school space adventure, not really science fiction because there's not actually science in it so much, not more of a space opera, just adventure. It reminds me sort of like the early Heinlein novels, the ones for younger readers, like Starman Jones, things like that. Although I wouldn't exactly say this is for kids. It has some adult language and adult situations in it. The other thing I will say about it is that although the name Yahtzee Croshaw is ridiculous and obviously fake, and it says satirical sci-fi adventure here, you may get the impression that this is like a really zany comedy thing like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or something like that. I didn't particularly find it funny. It's not like a really laugh out loud comedy. It's a little bit silly sometimes, but I really wouldn't call it comedic or even satirical. I don't really know what he's satirizing. So if you're expecting a laugh out loud, funny kind of book, I wouldn't expect that. What I would expect is a good old fashioned space adventure, which is what this is. And it's actually quite a well constructed space adventure. The plot is kind of a madcap, zany adventure in the sense that it just snowballs and things keep happening and there's lots of twists and turns and our heroes end up in much more extreme situations than you would think from the beginning. And it's well done in that regard. The basic plot is about a space pilot who is sort of, down on his luck and is conducting tourism around the galaxy for money. He gets in trouble because he's been collaborating with space pirates to kind of they steal the baggage of the passengers, the tourists who hire him to take them around, and then they give him money for the baggage that they steal, and they're in cahoots. And he gets in trouble for that, and he kind of is going to be hauled into court over it. And in the middle of that, he gets hired by a personal assistant to some rich industrialist to impersonate this famous pilot who is it's a pseudonym, but he's written all these, very high best-selling space adventure novels. And he's supposed to impersonate him for his child and then take his child out and give him a thrill ride around the galaxy. And he agrees to do this because he's in trouble with the law and he wants to get out of town and assume a fake identity for a little while. That's kind of how the adventure starts. And then it goes a bunch of crazy places, and it's very fast-paced, and a lot of stuff happens. There's a lot of action. It's enjoyable. It's narrated in the first person by the pilot, who I don't think you ever really learn his real name, but he's kind of a cynical, sarcastic sort of character who talks about, doesn't really take anything too seriously and jokes about things. So it's a lot of fun. It's a fun book, and the plot is a little bit. I feel like it's sort of a meta plot because what the book is really fundamentally about is sort of the nostalgia for the time when the space pilots really ruled the galaxy, and they've been sort of supplanted by teleportation devices called quantunnels, and they're not needed for transportation the way they used to be, and they're sort of looking back on the good old days. That's sort of what the plot is really about, and I feel like this is sort of a meta narrative because this book really harkens back to the golden age of science fiction when people were writing these kind of space adventures, which you really don't get anymore at all. You don't have these kind of books. It really feels like the kind of book that could have been written in the 1950s or early 60s. It's very pulpy. It's very, kind of, I don't want to say noir, but it has that kind of detective novel feel to it in the sense of, lots of sarcastic dialogue, lots of fast-paced action, lots of twists and turns. The whole... is it the Raymond Chandler axiom that when you don't know how to continue a plot, have someone burst into the room holding a gun? That sort of thing shows up a lot in it. So it really does feel like an old time, harkening back to those nostalgic days of the golden age of science fiction. And I feel like that's sort of what the plot is commenting on as well in sort of a meta way. That's really all I have to say about the book. It's not very complicated. It's a pretty straightforward adventure. While I didn't find it funny, I didn't really laugh at it, I did enjoy it, and it is a lot of fun. So if you are into Golden Age science fiction and you want something that will remind you of those good old days, and you want a quick read that will just be pure entertainment with nothing too deep to think about, I can recommend We'll Save the Galaxy for Food by Yahtzee Croshaw. I don't really know much about the author. I guess he's done another book, and he's kind of the creator of some kind of a podcast or radio show or something like that. But he writes sort of lighthearted, satirical, semi-funny books. But yeah, enjoyable adventure. Had fun reading it, and you might have fun reading it too if you're a science fiction person. That's really all I have to say, so I will leave it at that. If you enjoyed this review, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, leave me comments down below, and tell me what you thought of this book if you've read it, or what you thought of the author's work if you know him, or other books that you want me to read, and all kinds of stuff. I occasionally take recommendations, and I'll be back again next Wednesday with another book review for your viewing pleasure, because that is what I do. Thank you so much for watching. I've been your host, Logan Albright, and I will catch you next time.